moved just like a tree that's planted by the water. I shall not be moved. Well, I shall not be, I shall not be moved. I shall not be, I shall not be moved just like a tree that's planted by the water. I shall not be moved. Jesus will not fail me. I shall not be moved. Jesus will not fail me. I shall not be moved just like a tree that's planted by the water. I shall not be moved.
All right, welcome to the Waycast. Glad to see you here. This is Stardate 5/15/24, and we're glad that you joined us. And a little housekeeping before we get started. I just realized whenever I was looking over here that you guys have been saying here. Here's some J. Vernon McGee commentaries. It's a 6-volume set, I believe. I'm missing one. I'm missing Matthew through Corinthians. Chad gave me that set whenever he heard that I was going to do this. My original set is probably in Dad's barn somewhere. Whenever I moved back in 2008, 2011, he moved everything. And we hired a crew, and he moved everything down there. And I'm not sure where it's at, but I remember seeing all my commentaries and books in the barn, and they smell like hay. So I'm not sure. I had those. My uncle Amos gave those to me whenever I surrendered to preach when I was 18, and he suggested that I use them, and I did. For the 10 years I went to the nursing home, I preached through the book of Jeremiah. Of course, I don't think it takes that long. Let's see, 52 divided by 12 was about 4.5 years. I preached through probably the book of Jeremiah, and then started preaching my own messages probably after that. But that's why that I have a fondness for J. Vernon McGee. I used to listen to him at noon every day on King of Kings radio. But one of the things I wanted to discuss with you guys was I've been having trouble. I mentioned Friday I had trouble getting to the jail. I had trouble again last night. Me and LaRonda, we had to wait for another group, which I really love and respected. They were they're Amish. Actually, I asked them. They said they're between Mennonite and Amish. They had got there before us, and they let them in, and we had to wait an hour and a half before they let us in. And then the indoor rec was. I had to wait for my guys to get out of the indoor rec. Of course, there's only 2 guys that come out on Tuesdays. Of course, the guard said it's not really his fault. I really love the crew that worked Friday night and Tuesday night. In fact, I probably should read you the email I sent to the chaplain, but they're really good to me. But I just feel like since after COVID, there are the ones they report to, and the guards on the other shift really don't want me there. And me and LaRonda's discussed it. When I added Tuesdays, it's really taken a toll on me as well, because I don't really have a day of rest then. It was my Sabbath. And so and we feel like LaRonda and Braden feel like that this is going to take off, and so that I need to concentrate on this and with a CR on the outside, which is going well. We usually have about 19 or 20 people at our CR on Church on the Rock, which is above average. And so I'm going to Dwayne at Forks of Dix River, the pastor there, always told me I need to narrow my focus and concentrate on fewer things. I thought I was concentrating on one thing, but I think that I'm spreading myself too thin, and maybe that's why I'm sick. That's one of the reasons maybe I'm sick all the time. Um, and so we're going to eliminate the jail ministry. I sent a text to the jailer, to the chaplain tonight. Told him I love the jailer. Brian is I love him to death and love the chaplain. I think they really want, and I explained in the email, I think they really want me in there, want me to have free liberty. But like I said, I think they need to thin the herd and get rid of the goats. There was one guy in particular kind of made my life miserable whenever I was in there. I really hated going in on the nights that he worked. It was very caused me a lot of stress. But I wish him all the best in life. I was nice to him. Tried my best to be nice to him. Thanked him. I did whatever he said. I always said, I'll do whatever you tell me to. But it's just become very hard to go in there. The problem was I had Bibles, I had books, White Life, Purpose-Driven Life I needed to give to the guys. I had, we had daily breads we were going to give to the guys and the girls. They love those. And we have handouts that we have to give so that as we teach them the lesson, they can follow along, they can read along with us. I can't even give them a piece of paper. And so I think Brian, he'd probably never see this, but he needs a clean house. Anyway, so with that in mind, after I decided to do that, things seemed to have turned around for Braden. I was glad to hear that. And then, even though that wasn't what I would have done, but anyway, that's where we're at tonight. I thought I would share my life with you. You're in my office downstairs. I kind of liked it better, but LaRonda cleaned up my office and asked me whenever I moved back out there. She cleaned it up, and I did it in here once and moved back out into my game room. And she was like, "Why did you move back out of your office?" But then last night I watched Tucker Carlson, and he was at his kitchen table, and he talked about how the kind of thing that I wanted you to feel. I wanted you to feel like you were at home, like you were here in the chair next to me, sitting to me. I don't want it to be. I want it to be relaxed, and you not to feel like I'm lecturing you, or we're just sitting here having a conversation between you and I, and we're discussing the Bible. It's kind of how I wanted it to feel. Like you just dropped in and we were discussing the Bible. And that's kind of the atmosphere that I'd hoped for and was aiming for, but maybe I'll take it up to my kitchen table. It gets warm enough, maybe I'll go on the sun porch. I remember one of the preachers I watched during COVID, that's what he did. The problem is you get birds chirping and they kind of are annoying. I noticed there was one lady that was at that church. I think she did like a Sunday school class or something before he did the Sunday message, and those birds chirping kind of got annoying. Of course, I probably have dogs barking. But anyway, so tonight we're in Matthew chapter 2, and as we begin, this is a continuation of chapter 1. Mark, his connective "and" occurs 1,301 times in Mark. So this chapter starts with and so it's like Mark is like this one long run-on sentence. I did another piece of news was I went to the cataract surgeon today. He said I'm blind in this eye, which I knew. My right eye. He said my cataract was a 4. The optometrist said it was a 3.5 plus, but he said it was a 4 out of 4. That a 90-year-old men have a cataract. It is equivalent to this one. This one, the left eye has a 3 cataract, as a level 3 cataract, he said, instead of a 2.5 plus, which is what the optometrist said. And so I have surgery on the 12th and on July 1st for those. I was not going to get the cataract surgery because of the price tag. But I decided not to get the LASIX. The price tag I heard included the LASIX, which is like $1,400. It starts at $1,450 basically, and so per eye. I was like, nah, I don't think so. I think I'd rather be blind than spend, $10,000 on my eyes. So I don't know what people do that are broke and are blind, but maybe we need to start a fund for people who are blind. But I took the the base with my what the insurance company requires that it pays like $377 an eye, so I can afford that. But I'm not gonna. I mean, I don't even spend that much money on my vehicles. I might spend. I'll spend a little bit more than that on a house, but not on my eyes. Jeez, I better go blind. But anyway, so that catches you up on our how was my week. I guess this is like we can do like we do in small group where we go around and talk about our week. You can learn a little bit about me. That's what I'm wanting you to feel here is that you're at home. Sit back, relax, get in your lazy boy. Don't go to sleep on me though. Hold on, let me put you to sleep. But just relax and sit back and enjoy the ride today. And we will continue with verse 1 in Mark chapter 2. And it says, it starts off with "and." I do know that. I can go with that part. And again, he entered into Capernaum after some days, and it was noised that he was in the house. Jesus is in the house. The house is the important thing there. We'll talk about that. Jay Vernon said a little bit later. But Capernaum, this is after he moved there from his hometown. And so after Capernaum, after some days, I'm sorry, that's what the quote I am. But if you remember, he moved there from his hometown. His earthly ministry for 3 years was there, and you remember the last chapter, the leper told everyone, and the crowd pushed in, and so the leper disobeyed him and went and told everybody. Whenever he told him to tell nobody, we do the opposite. We tell nobody. Whenever he tells us, go tell everybody. But he did not come as a miracle worker. We learned this in Matthew, and especially whenever he was tempted. That was the temptation that the devil gave him, was to be a miracle worker. He came for a spiritual ministry, and that was to die on the cross. Healing in tongues gets the cart before the horse. Are they known for preaching the gospel, or for healings in tongues, or for an emotional service? So that's the danger. So what are we preaching? Are we preaching the gospel, or are we putting on a show? And so the there before the house is an adjective in the Greek. It's not an article, it's an adjective. And so this is Simon and Andrew's house, and they are taking off their roof as we read, and they probably did not stand by and let them. They probably but there was more of them than the two. But I don't know. Simon Peter. Well, he was a brawler, and so was his brother. If you watched the movie, was Chosen, but so he probably could have stopped him if he wanted to. But I'm sure that there was there was a commotion on the roof, needless to say. And so, verse 2, and straightway many were gathered together, insomuch that there was no room to receive them. No, not so much as about the door, and he preached the word unto them. And they came unto him. Oh, let's stop at 2. I'm sorry. There's the and. Is every verse start with? Yes, every verse starts with an and. The eternal run-on sentence. Okay. And so he preached the word. You know, what should be emphasized today, just like I was just talking about, is give us is we need to emphasize the preaching of the word. And that's why I am doing this podcast, the Waycast, going through the book chapter by chapter. We've done Mark or Matthew already. It's up, and there's all 28 chapters of Matthew. You can go through it. I go through it verse by verse, and so that's why that we're doing that is to preach the word. That is what should be emphasized. That's why that J. Vernon McGee did through the Bible series is to get out the word, to preach the word. It's very important. That is what that we lack today. And like I said, we beat our heads against the walls trying to get people to go to small group. I stand there at the door when we promote small groups, and it's like, you know, they try to get out the door without making eye contact. I mean, this is church, for goodness sake. I mean, what happened to shaking the preacher's hand on your way out the door? You know, and you look at these small groups, and I've seen the sign-in sheets, and, you know, I remember when we started, we had, you know, maybe a handful signed up for life healing choices, and nobody showed up. You know, the whole time we did it, it's just me and LaRonda. Tim, Abner, and Tina, their group didn't show up one time either, and so they said it in us when I played them the DVD, and they really enjoyed it. But you know, the desire for Bible study. If I offered to go through the book of Matthew at my church, nobody would show up. You know, I'm getting, you may laugh at my views. There's like, 10, 15 views for each one of them. But that's 10 or 15 that wouldn't be in a class at my church, which is so disappointing. And that's why but they may go up top, and you've got speaking in tongues, and you've got the emotional ism of the church service, and you've got the healings and all of that going on. But when it comes to the Word of God, nobody wants to listen. Nobody wants to be discipled and do the hard work. And we have that trouble with Celebrate Recovery. But I've got a great bunch of people in the Celebrate Recovery now. I mean, they're hungry. Every time we go somewhere, we're going to Indianapolis and if you're watching this, Jerry, I need to give you a call. I'll let you know that I'm on my way up there. I'm sorry you find out through this, but we're going to Indianapolis in 3 weeks for one day, and there's like 6 of us going. There's usually about 8 or 10 or 12 of them that go to everything that is offered. They've even been to Celebrate Recovery Insight Training. So there's a hunger there among those few. And I'm not saying that these small groups don't have people that are hungry in them. I haven't been to the other small groups, but they may have some people that are hungry in them, and so for the preaching of the word. And so That's where the real emphasis is. He didn't put that much emphasis on this whenever he went through it, but I am, because this is important. And so let's see, and it I'm blind. Give a we should be asking that God give us confidence and trust. It will have influence. And it will not return unto him void. And so that's what I'm hoping with this Waycast is, people may mock me, people may make fun of me, they may think that I'm not doing it right or the way they would do it, but you know, I need to do it with confidence, and that's what I hope that you see, that I'm confident in this podcast and in what that I'm sharing with you, and preaching of the word and getting out the word. I need to trust it will have influence, and that this word will not return unto him or the Lord or God void. And so I think that applies to us here, and it needs to apply to our church as well. Verse 3, and they came unto him, bringing one sick of the palsy, which was born of four. Verse 4, and when they could not come nigh unto him for the press, they uncovered the roof where he was, and when they had broken it up, they let down the bed wherein this sick of the palsy. And so there is a group of five here. One man has palsy, and there is the quartet. Jay Vernon talks about there is every church has all these committees, and they do the work of the church. He said his joke that it's minutes. All the committees are made of is minutes and a waste of hours, and that they decide nothing, and nothing can be done. And so, that's the problem with the church. Some people think that we really are better off with elders, and I don't know. Depends upon who the elders are. It's probably best left up to be the pastor makes the decisions, and so that because he's probably the only spiritual one in the group, because lots of times we put on these committees, and we put I've told you about my problems with the Judas treasurers. They tried their best not to let any of the money out of the treasury. And then you have businessmen on these committees and on the board, and probably would be given honorary elders positions if we went that way, as because of how much they give to the church. It's kind of like with money comes strings, and so it's and that was the problem we had at one of the churches I was at, is we've got to cater to the money, and the money doesn't want to spending our money on what God wants us to spend our money on. And so that's the nightmare right there, is you get basically you let the devil take control of the church, and it's a downward slope from there. You don't have church anymore, you have a social club. And so he didn't go in that detail either, but this is one of my pet peeves, is that we have people who they might as well be atheists. They don't trust in God for nothing. They have no spiritual depth to them, and they're running our church. And so verse 5, not necessarily mine, but Mark says that he's blessed. The Lord the board lets him preach whatever he wants, but that's here or there. But verse 5, when Jesus saw their faith, he said unto the sick of the palsy, Son, thy sins be forgiven thee. the the faith of these men. That's what it says there. Jay Vernon said he'd struggled with this for years, and it looks like the faith of the men responsible for this man are responsible for this man being saved. He is dealing though with the person's faith personally whenever he said, "Son, there, thy sins be forgiven thee." So he is dealing with the person individually rather than their faith cooperatively. Um, the we need stretcher bearers. G. Vernon says to the church. They won't come into the church unless they are brought in. People of the palsy, they're lame. They are incapable of moving on their own, and they're people with spiritual palsy. J. Vernon says people who that aren't are paralyzed by their sin, and they need us to bring it in. And that's where that I'm counting on you, to share this with your friends. I started through my contact list today, sharing with people. Of course, that was interesting. I did get a couple back. One I didn't realize was into Norse religion. And I came to realize back a few years ago, I'll talk about this for a second, whenever I was selling Legal Shield, um, the and that's how I got all these contacts, by the way, because I added everybody on Facebook to sell Legal Shield, and I wound up with like 5,000 contacts. And whenever I decided to get off Facebook in 2011, I took all of their contact information and transcribed it into my phone. I had them as contacts in my phone, and so since I had an iPhone at the time, it's carried it down through the years until I still have the 5,000 contacts. And so it's a way of weeding out those contacts too. But two of them were interesting. Two of the replies. One of them was believed in the Norse religion, which I ran into in the jail as well, as I told you. And I came to realize that whenever I was doing prepaid legal, one of the guys that I used to ride around with here in Kentucky, I guess we went to some of the trainings together or something. I don't remember why we were riding together. Maybe went to a presentation. He was going to share his group with me or something, but I don't remember the details. And anyway, we were riding together one day, and he said that somebody had given him a tape for him to listen to about how that we should trace back our lineage and should worship the gods that our first ancestors worshipped. And so that's probably why people are into Norse and Odin and that sort of thing. And so, I realized that comes from Oprah Winfrey and, Glenn Beck and these people who are, J.D. Vance and who's the think positive thinking guru of $40,000 Superdome in Texas. Whatever you believe, no matter what you believe, you're going to be saved. It kind of goes with what I ran into with the liberal Methodist church, where they believe everybody's going to be saved. So I guess that's where it doesn't matter what you believe because everybody's going to go to heaven. And so that was one of the things I ran into. And sharing it with all my contacts, they didn't like me sharing it with them, of course, because they were Norse. The other one, in interviewing them for a rental, I noticed they were living with somebody, so they probably didn't appreciate me sharing it with them either. And so that was a couple of conflicts. They seem, some people seem a little paranoid whenever who are you? Where did you get your number and stuff like that? But anyway, who and what are questions that are unanswerable, so don't ask them. But anyway, where was I? Verse 6. So please, that's one way that you can carry in the palsy is share these podcasts with people that you know who are lame, who that are suffering from sin to the point that they are not going to go to church. They're not going to. That these podcasts really aren't for people who go to church. Uh, other than discipleship. Yes, use them as discipleship, but really the purpose of getting out the word, the preaching of the word, is to get to people who are suffering from the palsy, who are lame, and are not going to go to a church because of the sin that's in their life, because they're living with somebody, or they've got they're worshiping a Norse god, they're into Wiccan, or she said she was pagan, that sort of thing. So um, those are the people who need to actually watch this, and so send it out to everyone. That's the reason I send it out to my contacts, because I'm not on Facebook. I got off Facebook. I'm off all social media. I have no way of getting out this podcast other than my contacts, or if you help me by sharing it. So anyway, enough. I don't like bring them in either. And I believe that that's talking about we need to bring them into the kingdom of heaven. It's your job, your responsibility, not the churches, not the pastor, to evangelize the world. It's not the church, not the pastor's job. It's yours. Okay, but anyway, but that's what he says here is they are brought in. So, but verse 6, but there were certain of the scribes sitting there and reasoning in their hearts. They are the enemy. These people are the enemy. The scribes that are sitting here. Verse 7, why doth this man thus speak blasphemies? Who can forgive sin but God? So they're wrong on the first one. He was not blaspheming. They're right on the second one. God is more law of is the moral law of the universe, and he must enforce the law. This was why that Oprah Winfrey had a trouble with the God of the Bible, was because he's a God of judgment. And we went over that in Matthew, I was looking for it the other day and couldn't find it, but whenever that he rakes the elders and the religious leaders over the coals and prophesies about the destruction of Jerusalem. I think it's in chapter 23. But anyway, the God that we know is not just a God of love. He has to be a God of judgment. A just judge has to execute judgment. And because that we are wicked and evil and despiteful, desperately wicked people, he has to judge us, and he is able to pronounce judgment on our sins, because Jesus became a scapegoat for us and took those sins upon him, and he judges those who accept Jesus as their personal Savior. He judges their sins by he put that judgment on Jesus when he died on the cross. So yes, he's a God of love, but he's a God of love because Jesus dying on the cross allowed him to. Jesus was just as angry and vicious and ferocious toward the evil in this world as anybody else, and because he's a just judge, and so that's why it says, "Be angry and sin not." We have every right to be angry with sin in this world and with people who are children of Belial. But that's another. We'll have to wait until we get to the story about the Bethlehemites in Judges before we go over that. Okay. Verse 8, immediately when Jesus perceived in his spirit that they so reasoned with themselves, he said unto them, why reasonest these things in your heart? He tries to draw them out. But from experience, that is losing experience, the experience of them losing debates with him, which they should have maintained uh, up to the cross and not tried to debate him any further, they are quiet. They keep their mouths shut. And so, whether is it easier to say the sick to the sick of the palsy, thy sins be forgiven thee, or say, arise and take up thy bed and walk. And verse 10 says, they're not going to answer that, by the way. But that ye may know that the Son of Man hath power on earth to forgive sins. He saith to the sick of the palsy, I say unto thee, rise and take up thy bed and go thy way unto thine house. And so the old Scottish commentator, used to say he would not be back to the straight chair. Is that what I got? Stretcher. I'm sorry. He would not be back to the stretcher. I can't read my writing. Sorry. I'm blind, remember? But 2060. Anyway, but back to the stretcher. He's not coming back to the stretcher. Whenever Jesus does something, he does it completely. He doesn't need to come back to the stretcher. I'd say, we see that maybe in healing services that, they may have a moment of, or that they are able to do things, but then I'm sure they return to their pain afterwards. But verse 12, and immediately he arose and took up his bed and went forth before them all, insomuch that they were all amazed and glorified God, saying, we never saw it on this fashion. This is the gospel of action. Mark is the gospel of action. You're going to see a lot of action in the book of Mark instead of anything else. Verse 13, and he went forth again by the seaside, and all the multitude resorted unto him, and he taught them. And as he passed by, he saw Levi, the son of Alphaeus, sitting at the receipt of customs, and said unto him, follow me. And he arose and followed him. Now this is Matthew, is Levi. He is in the tribe of Levi, is why he called him Levi, and he is collecting taxes. If you remember, the Levi's had a job. It wasn't like he took up the tax collecting job because I don't know what to do. There's nothing else to do but collect taxes. He had a job, guaranteed to work in the temple and in the they were to be given land in each city and be taken care of. I mean, you're supposed to take care of your preachers, by the way. But then one of the lost tribes. This is one of the lost tribes found here. They always. J. Vernon says they're always talking about the 10 lost tribes, but here one is found. He's collecting taxes. Is the reason he's lost. He's not lost. He's just collecting taxes. Verse 15, and it came to pass that as Jesus sat at meat in his house, many publicans and sinners sat also together with Jesus and his disciples, for there were many, and they followed him. Matthew, or Levi's house, is where that Jesus went. He called him as a disciple, and then he went home and had a feast with him. I guess might as well eat up all your food you got in your refrigerator if you're going to be gone for a while. And verse 16, and when the scribes and the Pharisees saw him eating with publicans, J. Vernon points out, publicans is before sinners because publicans are worse than sinners. in their eyes, and sinners. They said unto his disciples, how is it that he eateth and drinketh with publicans and sinners? Ooh. And so then okay, there was not a good man on the list. No one was invited that was good, that had a good reputation, I guess. The verse 17, when Jesus heard it, he saith unto them, they that are whole have no need for a physician, but they that are sick. And I came not to call the righteous, but sinners to repentance. And the disciples of John and of the Pharisees used to fast, and they came and said unto him, let me talk about 15, I'm sorry. This is tremendous, J. Vernon says, a tremendous answer. And remember I said, I wish I had the answers Jesus did. I wish I could think the way that he thought and come up with a good answer the way he did, but I can't. Basically the physician goes to the sick person's house. He doesn't go to the well person's house, and that's what he's saying here. And so in verse 18, and the disciples and John of the Pharisees used to fast, and they came and say unto him, why do the disciples of John and the Pharisees fast, but thy disciples fast not? And Jesus said unto them, can the children of the bride chamber fast while the bridegroom is with them? As long as they have the bridegroom with them, they cannot fast. But the days will come when the bridegroom shall be taken away from them, and then they shall fast in those days. So I guess we're supposed to be fasting until he comes. More important it is more important to be in fellowship with Jesus Christ, than to fast. The fellowship is the important thing, not the fasting. He talks about how that they were trying to, I don't know why if I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me see if 22. Let me keep reading, because I'm going to get ahead of myself if I don't. I have a tendency to do that a lot, because I know what's coming and I want to talk about it, but I'm just not there yet. Verse 21, no man also seweth a piece of new cloth on the old garment, else the new piece that filled it up taketh away from the old, and the rent is made worse. And so here's one illustration. The second one is, and no man putteth new wine in old bottles, else the new wine doth burst the bottles, and the wine is spilled, and the bottles will be marred. But new wine must be put in new bottles. And so this is very important here. I have not come to polish up the law, is what Jesus is saying, or to add to the Mosaic system, but to do something new. That's what it says in the Bible. Look, if you look, I'm doing a new thing, but give you Jesus wants to give you a new garment. Instead of, the law was basically rags, it was shreds, and Jesus gives us a robe of righteousness, and he wants and puts a new man in that robe of righteousness, who has become a son of God, or a child of God. We saw this in Matthew, and we'll see it in Luke, where he breaks with the religious rulers. This is what's coming up, is a break with the religious rulers. They determined to kill him at this point. He did not break the law, and doing good is all important, is what he's trying to say here. It's more about doing good than keeping the letter of the law. See, the problem is keeping the law, you're not doing good. It was a tyrant The law was a tyrant. It was under the law. They were. Um, it was like being ruled by a tyrant. For the 1500 years they were under the law. Verse 23. At least that's what he says in where I'm at in Romans today. In verse 23. And it came to pass that he went through the cornfields on the Sabbath day, and his disciples began as they went to pluck the ears of corn. You know, this is wheat and barley. It's not the corn we know. America hadn't been discovered yet, and therefore maize or corn had not been discovered yet, in case you need a history lesson. And then he was not breaking the law, because in Deuteronomy chapter 23 and verse 24 and 25, when thou comest into thy neighbor's vineyard, when thou makest eat grapes thy fill to thine own pleasure, thou mayest eat grapes thy fill at thine own pleasure, but thou shalt not put any in thy vessel. In other words, gather it. When thou comest into the standing corn, or the wheat and barley, of thy neighbor, when thou mayest pluck the ear with thine hand, but thou shalt not move a sickle unto thy neighbor's stand of corn. If you sickle it, if you take a scythe and sickle the corn, then you are harvesting it, and that's different than plucking an ear of corn and eating it. That is free to do, and was under the law. And so they were following the law. A sickle would have been harvesting it. They were not harvesting it, even though when I read it in Matthew, it sounds like he said they were considered harvesting it, but here he points out and gives evidence that they were not harvesting this at this time. If they'd used a sickle and put it to the threshing floor, that would have been harvesting it and breaking the Sabbath law. And so verse 24, and the Pharisees said unto him, behold, why do they on the Sabbath day that which is not lawful? And so, the religious leaders broke the law when they determined to the death of the Lord. And this is whenever they are determining that at this point. They are breaking the law at this point. They're projecting. They're psychopaths. No. Like all of our leaders. This is called projection. They're breaking the law, and they accuse his disciples of breaking the law because of their guilt. Like I said, that's called projection. But anyway, bedtime reminder. Actually, I wonder if I'm on the right. If I told you the right day, because this is no. Okay, I did. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. Interesting. That's my time of the day. I see that about twice a day. 1, 2, 3, 4. So anyway, 25. And he said unto them, have you never read what David did when he had need and was an hungered, he and they that were with him? Of course, we covered this in Matthew, but David broke the law intentionally and was justified, but he didn't bring this out in Matthew, that the letter of the law does not apply when it creates a hardship for the servant to be a servant to God, the servant of God to be a servant of God. And so because the important thing is God looks at the intentions, not at the letter of the law. And that's the problem we have today. People look at the letter of the law rather than the intentions. if you agree, if and that's where that a lot of people get out of things and use wiggle room. Attorneys that can lie and get away with murder in the courtroom is that they know the judge is going to go by the letter of the law rather than the than the principle behind the law, or else they would rule to protect kids. That's all I'm saying. Verse 26, and he went into the house of God in the day of Abiathar the high priest, and did eat the showbread, which was not lawful to eat, but for the priest, and gave also to them which were with him, which is about, I don't remember if it was 40 men or if all 400 were with him that time. And he said unto them, the Sabbath was made for man, and not man for the Sabbath. Therefore the Son of Man is the Lord also of the Sabbath. This is where he gets in real big trouble. You already got, well, this is where he gets in real big trouble. You see, the law was remade for man. Whenever the law was already there before the Mosaic law, but when it was written, it was remade so the man could understand it, and not man was not made for the Sabbath. We were not made strictly just so that we could obey the Sabbath, in other words. And the Lord, there's two important principles here. That's the first one. The second one is that the Lord is the Lord of the Sabbath. So he's saying, I'm the Lord of the Sabbath. That's what we discussed in Matthew, and that's what how we left it was that, well, I'm the Lord of the Sabbath. We can do whatever we want to on Sunday. But this Jay Vernon said that he has a book called The Sabbath Day or The Lord's Day. Jay Vernon's book. So you might want to order that. I encourage you to read as much as you can. We're 52 minutes in. You might be complaining that I'm going, the podcast I was talking about, I wouldn't watch it because I didn't realize Aaron Rodgers was such a cusser. He cusses all the way through the thing. He is also uses acid to become spiritual, like the other guy that Tucker interviewed. I hope Tucker's not going down that road. But James Jordan Peterson, he talks about how that we should do more exploration of psychedelic drugs. That we shouldn't have stopped exploring that. It opens up the mind to spirituality. It opens up the mind to the devil, is what it does, and that's what I said in another podcast about the other guy that Tucker interviewed. But Tucker's interview was 2 hours and 15 minutes with Aaron Rodgers, and if people will spend that amount of time listening to Aaron Rodgers cuss the whole time, I should have shut him off after 5 minutes. But anyway, all these people that I listen to, I have to stop listening to them because they cuss. But it's not Tucker, but the people he's got on there are cussing. And so the point is we need to spend time in the Word. Lots of times in the Word. I was kind of disappointed. I'm following him on Facebook or on here on YouTube. I don't want to go away from it. Perry Stone, that's what his name is. Perry Stone was at our church, at Church on the Rock. Apparently, this is hearsay. I heard it. This is third person. Okay, that he was at Church on the Rock, and Mark invited him to go four-wheeling, and he said, I can't go four-wheeling. I got to spend time in the Word. He apparently spends like 8 or 10 hours a day reading the Word, and that was the reason that the diakonos, the deacons, was put in place, was so that the the disciples, the apostles, could spend their time in the study of the Word, and especially in this day and time, given the abilities that we have. I mean, you're probably watching something else or listening to something else constantly. Whenever you're at work, most people have earbuds in, listening to something. Listen to the Word or the preaching of the Word. Read. That's what I'm talking about. Is getting His book. Read Christian books. And they say that we should read at least one book a year, um, and we need that. And so you spend a lot of time doing that. When I'm in the car by myself, I'm listening to Jay Vernon preach. You know, it was like I said, I'm not going to the jail anymore, but it's on Fridays and Tuesdays. That's 4 hours of traveling I was doing, going to and from the jail twice, that I was spending listening to J. Vernon McGee. When I play Fortnite, you know, it's kind of like, you know, it's getting the most out of life. You know, people may think it's funny that a 55-year-old is playing Fortnite, and I play it religiously every night. Play 3 accounts, mine, my wife's, and my son's, and do the challenges on it. Rhonda sometimes does her challenges, sometimes Braden does his challenges, sometimes we'll all 3 play together, and sometimes me and Braden play together. But by and large, I do the challenges. But when I'm sitting there doing that, I'm listening to the podcasts. They're to educate, but a lot of times I'm listening to J. Vernon McGee. And so that's what I'm saying is I found that just listening to the Bible doesn't really work. But see, whenever you've got J. Vernon McGee, then he's talking about it and explaining it. So you're getting what it's being talked about more and more. Because one time, you know, like 28 days, I listened to, you know, because you can listen to the Bible on your Bible app all the way through, but you know, you zone out and you're like, oh, what did they just talk about? But you know, whenever you in this situation where I feel like whenever that you have somebody reading the Word and then explaining what it's about, you're kind of getting a double thing. And so if you zone out, you can kind of come back and at least kind of pick up what is being said. Reading it yourself is the best, okay? Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm reading at least I'm reading every chapter to you, so I'm reading at least a chapter a day. So, but that's the important thing is that we miss in this is it's important to be studying constantly on something somehow and improving our minds and learning more about Jesus and God and His will for our life. Anyway, just thought I would throw in that little advertisement for his book. Least I can do. Download it on Amazon today. No. But at least I can do, since I'm using a lot of his material to promote his book, and it would be well worth it. Anyway, so au revoir, au revoir, it's la vista, baby. C'est la vie. Any other languages I know how to say goodbye in? Well, good night to you and yours. Like, subscribe, comment, share, please. It would be good to have comments, on things. I appreciate the good jobs, but if you have any questions, that would be nice too, and I can answer them in the next podcast.
I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved, just like a tree that's planted by the water. I shall not be moved. Like Kurt and Jehovah, I shall not like a tree that's planted by the waters. I shall not be moved. Well, I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved, just like a tree that's planted by the waters. I shall not be moved. Jehovah, I shall not be moved. Anchored in Jehovah, I shall not be moved, just like a